She won't tell you this directly. But the moment you stop giving it, something inside her quietly shuts off, and by the time you realize what's missing, she's already emotionally halfway gone. Most men spend years trying to understand women by listening to what they say, but what you're not told, what almost no one explains clearly, is that attraction, connection, and deep emotional pull are rarely built on words. They're built on what she feels when she's around you, and that feeling isn't random. It's created by something most men overlook because it doesn't look obvious, it doesn't sound dramatic, and it doesn't come with a clear instruction manual. It's presence, not just being physically there, but being mentally grounded, emotionally steady, and fully aware of yourself in the moment. You see, a woman doesn't just respond to what you do, she responds to who you are being while you're doing it. You can say all the right things, follow all the advice, use all the perfect techniques, and still feel like something is missing, because if your energy feels uncertain, distracted, or slightly off, she will feel that instantly, even if she can't explain it. That's the part most men miss. They focus on performance, on saying the right lines, on trying to impress, on trying to win her over, but what she secretly wants isn't to be impressed. It's to feel something real, something stable, something she doesn't have to question. And that only comes from a man who is deeply rooted in himself. Think about this. Have you ever been around someone who just felt calm, not boring, not passive, but grounded? Someone who doesn't need to fill every silence, doesn't rush to prove anything, doesn't react emotionally to every little shift. That kind of presence creates space, and in that space, something powerful happens. She relaxes, not because you told her to, but because she feels safe enough to. And this is where many people misunderstand the idea of what women want. It's not about control, it's not about dominance in the loud, aggressive sense. It's about emotional leadership, the ability to hold your center, especially when things are uncertain, because relationships are full of uncertainty. Emotions shift, situations change, energy fluctuates. And in those moments, she's not looking for perfection. She's looking for stability, not someone who never feels anything, but someone who doesn't lose themselves in what they feel. That's rare, and rarity creates value. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because to develop that kind of presence, you have to face something most people avoid: your own need for validation, the subtle ways you look for approval, the moments you overthink your words, the times you adjust your behavior just to be liked. All of that weakens your presence, not because it makes you a bad person, but because it pulls you out of alignment. And the moment you're no longer aligned with yourself, she feels it. There's a slight tension, a subtle hesitation, an energy that says, I'm not fully certain of myself right now. And that energy creates distance, not instantly, but gradually. Because attraction isn't just built on what's there, it's also built on what's missing. And when certainty is missing, she starts to feel it. She might not say anything. She might still smile. She might still engage. But something changes beneath the surface. And over time, that small shift becomes a gap between how she used to feel around you and how she feels now. So she pulls back slightly, not dramatically, just enough for you to notice, if you're paying attention. And that's when most men panic. They start doing more, trying harder, overthinking everything. But effort without alignment doesn't fix the problem. It amplifies it. Because now, instead of being present, you're performing. And performance always feels less real than presence. Now listen carefully. What she secretly wants is not perfection. It's not constant excitement. It's not even nonstop attention. It's consistency in who you are. The feeling that the man she's with is the same man regardless of the situation. Not emotionally unpredictable, not easily shaken, not constantly seeking reassurance, but grounded, clear, stable. That doesn't mean emotionless, it means centered. Because when you're centered, your actions come from clarity, not fear, not insecurity, not the need to control outcomes. And that creates a completely different dynamic, one where she doesn't feel like she has to manage your emotions, one where she can actually lean into her own. And that's where real connection begins, not when you try to be everything she wants, but when you become someone who is fully himself without needing to be validated for it. That's what most men miss. They think attraction is built through adding more effort, more words, more strategies, but often it's built by removing what doesn't belong. The overthinking, the neediness, the subtle desperation to be chosen, because the moment you stop chasing validation, you start embodying something far more powerful, self-assurance. And self-assurance isn't loud, it doesn't demand attention, it doesn't try to prove itself, it simply exists. And when it's real, it's felt immediately. That's what draws her in, that's what keeps her engaged, that's what creates that unexplainable pull most people try to replicate with techniques. But you can't fake it, because it doesn't come from what you do. It comes from who you are when no one is watching, and that's where everything begins to change. Here's the truth most men never realize. Women aren't secretly looking for perfection. They aren't obsessed with grand gestures, fancy words, or endless attention. What they crave, deep down, is a sense that you are unshakable, that you are the same man whether life is smooth or turbulent, whether they're happy or upset, whether the world feels easy or chaotic. It's a subtle thing, almost invisible, but its absence is loud. It's the energy that she feels when she wonders, is he really himself right now, or is he trying to be what I want? That subtle doubt kills attraction faster than any fight, any argument, any disappointment could ever do. Most men spend years trying to solve the wrong problem. They think if they say the right thing, if they text just enough, if they make her laugh, they've unlocked the secret. But attraction isn't transactional. It doesn't work that way. It's emotional, instinctive, primal even, and women are wired to sense alignment, or the lack of it, immediately. Think about a time you were around a man who radiated certainty, not arrogance, not control, not the kind of dominance that feels aggressive, but quiet, grounded certainty. Even without words, you felt safe. You felt stability. You trusted him without thinking about it. That's the energy women are drawn to. It's magnetic. Now consider the opposite. A man who over-explains, who constantly worries about how he's being perceived, who is quick to apologize for small things he shouldn't even need to apologize for. You don't need to analyze it. There's just a tension in the air. Something feels off. It's exhausting. That's why women pull back, sometimes without realizing why. Here's the thing most men don't know. Attraction doesn't rise with effort. It rises with presence, confidence, and the ability to maintain your center even when chaos happens. Presence is the signal that says, I am whole, I am enough, and I don't need anyone to complete me, but I choose to be here with you. That choice, freely made and confidently expressed, creates respect. It creates longing. It creates that invisible pull that makes her think of you constantly. Most men are unaware that they're actually doing the opposite. They chase attention, overinvest emotionally, and try to fill gaps that don't need filling. Every time you do that, you unintentionally broadcast uncertainty. You become less magnetic, not more. And women, wired to detect emotional inconsistencies, feel it instinctively. That's why trying too hard almost always backfires. Here's where psychology comes in. Human beings respond to consistency and predictability in character, not predictability in behavior. She doesn't want a man who always does what she wants. She wants a man whose core doesn't shift based on her mood, the situation, or the pressure to be liked. Because when your core is stable, your actions have weight, and your presence has impact. She knows she can rely on you, not to never disappoint, but to never compromise your essence. And that's the secret most men never hear. Women secretly want a man who's unshakable, grounded, and emotionally sovereign. Someone whose energy isn't dictated by how she acts or how she responds. Because emotional sovereignty breeds confidence, and confidence in turn creates desire. Most men confuse this with control or dominance, but it's not. It's self-possession. A man who is fully himself creates space for her to be fully herself. She doesn't feel the need to test him. She doesn't feel the need to chase him. And the relationship flows on a deeper level because neither person is unconsciously trying to manipulate or control the other. And here's another thing that blows most men away. Women are attracted to stability far more than drama. That doesn't mean a relationship should be boring or stagnant. It means she's drawn to someone who can handle highs and lows without losing himself, who can navigate conflict without panic, who can feel emotions fully without becoming a hostage to them. That emotional mastery is irresistible. Here's why most men miss it completely. They think attraction is about actions, not energy. They think they can win a woman over with texts, dates, or gifts. But what women feel deep down is always louder than what they hear. Energy always precedes action. Presence always precedes connection. If your energy communicates insecurity, neediness, or a lack of alignment with yourself, no amount of external effort will bridge the gap. This is where self-work comes in. The man who understands this principle stops obsessing over what she wants in the shallow sense. He stops asking, "How can I make her like me more?" and starts asking, "How can I become a man whose presence naturally inspires desire, trust, and longing?" That question changes everything because it flips the focus inward. It flips the focus to self-mastery. And self-mastery is seductive because it's rare. Most men never develop it because it requires courage. The courage to face your insecurities, the courage to stand alone when needed, the courage to stop seeking constant validation. Most men prefer comfort over growth. They prefer the illusion of connection over real alignment, and that's why so many relationships stagnate, fade, or collapse. But here's the liberating truth. This isn't about being manipulative. It isn't about playing games. It's about becoming so whole, so grounded, and so self-possessed that you naturally attract the kind of woman who values you, not for what you do for her, but for who you are. That kind of attraction is automatic, effortless, and long-lasting, and it's far more powerful than anything you could say, text, or plan. Because women don't fall for lines or strategies, they fall for energy, presence, stability, certainty, emotional sovereignty. The man who embodies these traits becomes magnetic, compelling, and unforgettable, not because he tries harder, but because he exists fully. So ask yourself, are you operating from this level of self-possession? Or are you still chasing validation, reacting to moods, and over-explaining yourself? The answer will determine whether you experience deep attraction, mutual respect, and lasting connection, or whether you endlessly wonder why she drifts away despite all your effort. This is the invisible language most men miss, the one that women notice, feel, and respond to, even when they can't articulate it. And mastering it isn't about perfection. It's about alignment, presence, and becoming someone who doesn't just exist in a relationship, but someone whose energy commands respect and desire naturally. Because at the end of the day, what women secretly want is simple: a man who is entirely himself, grounded, confident, and unwavering in his presence. When that energy is present, everything else falls into place. And when it's absent, no amount of effort will ever feel enough. So, the question you must ask yourself is, which version of you is she feeling right now? The one that's grounded, confident, and magnetic? Or the one still trying to prove himself, seeking validation, and tolerating what doesn't serve him? Here's the truth most men never face. Women aren't secretly looking for the man who has the most money, the best body, or the smoothest lines. They're looking for the man who can make her feel a certain way without trying too hard. She wants to feel grounded, safe, and yet excited, like she's with someone who is fully himself, and that presence alone creates desire. But notice this: presence isn't about what you say. It isn't about what you do. It's about what you project emotionally and psychologically. Your energy, your emotional regulation, your ability to remain anchored when life gets messy, that's what she feels first. It's instinctive, it's primal, and it's impossible to fake for long. Most men miss this entirely because they think attraction is a performance. They try to impress, entertain, and win approval. But women aren't impressed by performance. They're drawn to authenticity, when your internal world matches your external behavior. When you act, speak, and move from a place of clarity instead of fear. Think about it. A man who's confident doesn't need to dominate. He doesn't argue to win. He doesn't need her constant validation. He simply exists with clarity about who he is, what he stands for, and what he will tolerate. That quiet certainty is magnetic. It's like a signal in the air. He knows his value and he doesn't settle for less than alignment. Now, contrast that with the man who over-explains himself, apologizes for minor things, or constantly seeks reassurance. Even if he's charming, funny, or attractive in other ways, there's a subtle energy shift she notices immediately. She senses the insecurity beneath the words. She notices the hesitation beneath the charm. And over time, that energy erodes attraction faster than any argument or mistake ever could. Here's what most men miss. Women crave stability because stability signals strength. Emotional unpredictability signals weakness. Not weakness in skill or intelligence, but weakness in self-possession. When you react to every slight, adjust to every mood, or chase approval for every reaction, she unconsciously notices, and her attraction diminishes, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. The irony is, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to say all the right things. You don't need to impress her constantly. You simply need to be grounded, to operate from a center that doesn't shift with every external circumstance. And when you do that, everything changes. Your presence becomes magnetic. Your words carry weight. Your actions gain significance. And she begins to see you as someone rare, someone worth investing in emotionally. Women are wired to respond to consistency and alignment, not effort alone. A man who is emotionally sovereign doesn't need to control her behavior. He doesn't need to manipulate or test her. Instead, his energy naturally inspires desire and trust. She feels the pull without understanding why. That's the difference between attraction that lasts and attraction that fades. Most men think they're missing the trick because they focus on what to say or do, but the real secret is inside them. It's their energy, their emotional alignment, their ability to be fully themselves without chasing validation or approval. That's what women sense on a subconscious level, and that's what fuels lasting attraction. Here's the challenge. To cultivate this presence, you must confront your own insecurities. You must identify the moments you overreact, overcompensate, or overgive just to keep someone in your life. You must notice when you tolerate things that don't align with your values or boundaries. Because every time you tolerate misalignment, you weaken your energy. You dilute the very thing she's subconsciously drawn to, your grounded presence. And let's be real, this is uncomfortable. Changing the energy you project isn't simple. It requires self-reflection, emotional discipline, and courage. You'll face resistance, not from her, necessarily, but from yourself. The habits of approval-seeking, overcompensation, and tolerance of what doesn't serve you are ingrained. Breaking them feels risky, but it's the only path to real attraction, real respect, and genuine connection. When you develop this kind of presence, everything in your relationship shifts. Conflicts lose their intensity because you don't get pulled into every emotional surge. She feels safe expressing herself fully without worrying about triggering a reactive response from you. Your calm certainty allows space for her own growth and emotional expression. And paradoxically, that freedom increases her emotional investment and desire. Most men never understand this because they confuse attention with attraction. They think that doing more, buying more, texting more, impressing more is the key. It isn't. Doing more without alignment is invisible. It doesn't inspire attraction. It signals neediness. It signals a lack of grounding. And over time, women unconsciously sense this. They feel less drawn, less emotionally connected, and less invested. So here's the point. What women secretly want from you is your full presence, your grounded energy, your emotional sovereignty, your unwavering alignment with who you truly are. Not your words, not your effort, not your tactics, but your energy, your consistency, your confidence, and your ability to navigate life without losing yourself. When you embody that energy, you stop chasing validation. You stop over-explaining, you stop tolerating misalignment, and the result is magnetic. Attraction becomes effortless, connection deepens, and respect grows naturally. Ask yourself, are you operating from that level of presence? Or are you still trying to impress, explain, and validate? Your answer will determine the quality of attraction and connection you experience, not just now, but in every relationship you have. Here's the moment most men never fully grasp. Women don't want a man who bends for them. They want a man who stands as himself, even when it's uncomfortable. The truth is, what she secretly desires isn't what you think. It isn't grand gestures, constant attention, or perfection. It's a man whose energy makes her feel something primal, secure, safe, and yet undeniably alive. And that energy comes from your clarity about who you are, about what you will accept, what you will not, and how you navigate your life regardless of external approval. Women feel that. They notice it in how you speak, in how you act under stress, in how consistent you are with your word and presence. That is the invisible signal that says, this man is solid, this man is rare. Most men miss this because they focus on outcomes, trying to control how she feels rather than mastering how they exist. They believe attraction is created by doing, by effort, by trying to impress. But attraction isn't earned, it's recognized. It's recognized when a man stops performing and starts existing fully aligned with himself. Think about it. When you act from alignment, everything changes. You stop over-explaining, you stop chasing, you stop tolerating behaviors that feel off. Boundaries become natural, not forced. Your presence becomes magnetic because it communicates something powerful. I am whole, I am enough, and I choose to be here, not because I need you, but because I want to. That energy, quiet, unwavering, self-possessed, is irresistible. It creates emotional safety while simultaneously sparking desire. She begins to feel your value without you having to claim it. She invests emotionally because your presence invites her to, not because she's trying to manage or test you. That's the secret most men never understand. Attraction isn't about you performing, it's about you standing. Now, this requires courage, because the moment you stop tolerating what doesn't serve you, you may feel resistance, internal and external. She may test you, she may question changes she senses in you. That's natural. People react when dynamics shift. But here's the key: the man who maintains his center regardless of reaction gains the respect, desire, and emotional investment that most men spend years chasing in vain. And here's the harsh truth that's rarely spoken. If you continue tolerating behaviors that undermine your presence, you'll slowly erode attraction. Not because she stopped caring, not because you did something wrong, but because every time you tolerate what you shouldn't, your energy subtly shifts and she unconsciously senses it. She begins to doubt, pull back, or disengage emotionally. Attraction fades not with a bang, but with quiet consistency. That's why self-alignment is non-negotiable. To create magnetic attraction, you must first stop giving what isn't yours to give. Stop bending to please, stop over-explaining, stop chasing approval, stop tolerating behaviors that feel off. Start acting from clarity, presence, and unwavering self-possession. That's the invisible language that women notice, feel, and respond to instinctively. The beautiful irony: when you do this, she doesn't feel rejected. She doesn't feel abandoned. She feels drawn. She feels pulled into something rare and alive. She feels connection without manipulation. She feels desire without drama. And that's the attraction that lasts. That's the connection that deepens. That's the respect that never wavers. Now, here's the question you must ask yourself. Are you living in alignment with the version of yourself who naturally inspires desire, trust, and emotional investment? Or are you still giving pieces of yourself away to gain approval, tolerating what doesn't serve you, and overcompensating for fear of loss? Take a moment to reflect. The answer will determine the depth of your attraction, the strength of your connections, and the emotional engagement you experience in your relationships. Because what women secretly want isn't complicated. It's authenticity, clarity, and presence. And the man who embodies that doesn't need to persuade or perform. He simply attracts. So, here's what I want you to do right now. Look honestly at your relationships. Identify one thing you've been tolerating, one part of yourself you've been dimming, or one boundary you've been ignoring. Share it in the comments, own it, acknowledge it. That awareness is the first step toward reclaiming your presence, your value, and the respect you deserve. And if this opened your eyes to something you've been missing, hit the like button, subscribe for more insights into male and female psychology, and share this with someone who needs to hear this truth. Because sometimes one realization about presence and alignment is enough to change the entire trajectory of your love life. Now ask yourself, are you attracting her or merely tolerating her while losing yourself in the process? Drop your answer in the comments. This is where transformation begins.